Hello, we like to present our work, and my name is Ludmila Petrova, research in cultural economics, and Susana Graca, my colleague from Portugal, also cultural economist, and part of our team it's Professor Klamer, who will be not presenting, but it's part of this work. And thank you very much for organizing this event. We just like to contribute with one method that is able to evaluate all possible cultural and social values or qualities of cultural events. And we believe that this can complement the existing way of evaluating cultural and creative industry. As we know, the usual way to justify the impact so far it's to count contributions of cultural and creative industry to the GDP growth and employment. And still the social and cultural qualities or values of the cultural and creative industry remain relevant, but not properly estimated or widely estimated. So we propose to do so through the value-based approach. And first, this is part of the contribution of Professor Klamer of representing and developing the 5-sphere models, which represent different part of the economy and society. Market, it's M, it's responding to market, G, it's responding to government, C, it's responding to the overall cultural sphere, C, it's responding to their communities, small communities or larger communities, and O, it's responding to oikos. Addressing the need to assess the realization of such values within the cultural and creative industries and beyond, we propose the value-based approach as a theoretical framework that allows for assessing the contributions of the policy organization or activity to various social and cultural values, and quality evaluator as a tool to quit the assessment process. Value-based approach pointed out that an ongoing transformation occurs across all different parts of the system, which are underpinned by different logic, as I presented just a second ago. And this allowed to complement the analysis of the changes in instruments and structures like the economic values with analysis of social and cultural values. It also helps to make sense of the realization of these values as a process of change, as deliberate valorization or creation of affirmations and change of values by looking at what new practices are undertaken by different stakeholders, individual or institutions within a broader context. Now the next slide. Here briefly we address the process of cultural or how cultural evaluations has to be look like or we look like. First, the importance, of course, of cultural and social values according to the cultural economics. It's quite vital in this sector. Process of constructing value during which the cultural gain words. This is very specific for these sectors. And value, it's a quality that has to be performed. And so we're looking at the experience of this value. So this is why we call it value-based approach, but also we are looking how this value express itself. And also the personal experience, we're looking at personal experience as a fundamental dimension of cultural value. And various stakeholders are in dynamic relations, which means that we are looking also how these stakeholders relate to the values. Next slide. And this is the process of cultural valorizations. it takes a lot of reasoning and argumentations, negotiation of meanings, values, the articulations. Basically, it's a process of creating a value. And this is why it's very important to take two, or Klamer addressed two steps in the valorization process. This is awareness and articulation of the goods or values we're striving for, and be able to engage the others. How this happening in the value-based or in the qualitative evaluator approach? First, the first step is realizing values, so where we defined so-called value map together with the protagonist, and work on their intended value, what their purpose are, what they like to achieve, and what they're striving for. So you can see on the right side the example for output of value map. Second step is to identify the stakeholders which are engaged in this process of value change or value affirmation. So, and it's important to understand how each of the stakeholders relate to to these core values. So we are looking at the second graphic, which illustrates the value map according to its stakeholder group. And then we are, let's say, proposing some valorization practices, which means some activities which can valorize these values. And only then it's coming the evaluations, which actually it's a way to assess the outcomes of the activities. And what we call the value impact. It's the differences between expectations, which is defined in the beginning, or intended values, and the experience, the actual experience after the activity, which it's we measure after the experience is completed. So the differences between both, we call it the value impact. So we are able to articulate in this way the differences, what change makes the activity. Qualitative evaluator, so far it's in a process of experimentation. Still we apply it, and we are aiming to apply it to a broader scope of sectors, projects, and so on. So far, we had experience. We applied to different projects in Italy, in the field of social innovations, in the field of education. Also, we applied to the City Festival in Rotterdam, which we will present, not now, but actually it's another presentation. We applied also to cultural policy, and in Piemonte region, and also to the creative program of Arts Council of Malta, which will follow in this presentation. So I will give the stage to my colleague Susanna.
Yes, thank you. So we worked with the Arts Council of Malta, which is the funding body for cultural activities in the country of Malta. And we have developed the study for the creative community program that the Arts Council was developing at the time and had implemented. So we had connections with both the organization at the Arts Council that had issued the call for the support of programs that's aimed at supporting creative communities and projects to develop creative communities, and also already to the beneficiaries. So implementing, maybe you can change, yes. Implementing the Creative Communities program of the Arts Council Malta involved various actors, all of whom participated in the process of engaging Maltese communities in culture and art projects. The project that we developed over this support program generated very rich data and a wide range of results, which we analyzed through the use of the qualitative methods of data analysis. So the data was collected through a series of focus groups held with the with the Arts Council Malta members, who were representatives from projects supported by the program between 2017 and 2018. We used questionnaires sent by email to all project organizers and online surveys completed by project organizers and facilitators and by project participants. We also conducted focus groups, and the responders rate for the surveys that we issued reached 30% of the targeted 250 surveys. So here we see the value map of the program, and as you can see, we developed these proxies for the values that our respondents showed. So we see that a lot of this has to do with well-being, inclusion, also the artistic value, of course, and social cohesion and trust. So this community program spoke to these values within the various stakeholders that were surveyed by us. So in the next slide, we can see a difference between what were the expectations of what were the values that the stakeholders, the various stakeholders were experiencing, like well-being, inclusion, new artistic qualities, belonging, as a consequence of participating in the project supported by the Arts Council of Malta. So the method assisted the stakeholders in defining the criteria by which they could assess any changes in respect to those values. And the next slide shows for the next slides, Lucy. I don't know if you have changed. Yes, sorry, I didn't see it. So the next slide shows the difference between the expectation from the beneficiaries and their actual experience. So we see there what they thought they would get when they first started and how they responded when they then actually had the experience. And the following slide shows the same for the organizers. So it's their perspective of the impact of the projects. And we see here that for several of these expectations, like working in a team or new knowledge or exploring creative potentials, there was also an expectation in the beginning and a realization in the end. And this difference, of course, we analyze it as the impact. So the findings that we were able to gather for this project have to do with economic, social, and cultural values. The way we divide it under the value-based approach, we see that there is a series of personal values that were present in this program, like openness for change, willingness to experiment, capacity to adapt, etc. Societal values as new practices for social collaboration, a sense of belonging, and new relationships, and social values like new working methods, a new type of social interaction, co-creation, etc. And so we see that we have these three layers of impact, so to speak, for the stakeholders within the program. Regarding the method itself, our conclusions go in the direction of showing that the method is reliable and it is comprehensive, because it's something that encompasses quite a lot of factors involved in the impact of a certain project or program. We can also see that there is multiple intangible contributions in terms of social and cultural values. The analysis through these categories of values are applied in a concrete context and are defined by the context. It's not something that we bring from the start. It's something that derives, it's a bottom-up definition of these values. This is actual impact, and the cultural organizations and stakeholders are very much involved. We also identify a number of limitations so far that we want to develop in the future, like this set of proxies or indicators that we arrive to. We would also like to have a collection of data that is wider and new, and that this data needs a context interpretation. So it's something that is very much case by case, and that has implications, of course, for the research. In the future, we would like to collect longitudinal data and also widening the scope of application. So we are looking for projects where we can apply this method further. So thank you. And for more information, you can just go to our website or send us any questions that you may have.